Today we would be focusing on teaching aptitude, one of the most important topics and the most scoring sections in your NTA paper 1. So we would be covering some of the questions from 2020 paper. Now, cognitive dissonance in classroom communication is the result of a chaotic condition that exists. So cognitive dissonance is a situation when there are conflicting attitudes. For example, there is an exam tomorrow and my friend's birthday party. So what should I do? And is a state of cognitive dissonance. So there is a conflicting belief, attitude or behavior that would be witnessed, and that is because of chaotic conditions. If there was no chaotic conditions both on separate days, I would have attended both. But what would happen if both things happen together? This would create a chaos, and the same happens in a classroom communication. So there could be discomfort, there should be a resort to balance that should be required under this scenario. The next is, which of the following need strengths in Maslow's hierarchy are related to higher order learning? So higher order, we say it is the esteem need and the need for self-actualization. So if you remember this Maslow's law of hierarchy that we have discussed before, we move from the physiological needs to self-esteem and self-actualization. So that is the right path, and these two are on the higher orders and physiological needs on the lowest order. So that is the correct format. The next question is, which of the following contribute to positive influence on student-teacher communication? Now what would happen when there is a student-teacher communication? There should be a sense of belongingness between the two. They should acknowledge each other's participation that is there, and also there should be a persuasive attitude. For example, whatever if I am trying to convey, you should be able to get convinced that this is the right answer for this question, and so on and so forth. So that is a kind of persuasive attitude. So sense of belongingness, participation and persuasive attitude are important. The next is, for use during teaching from the list given below, identify the questions that are process type rather than content type. So content type are direct questions, factual in nature. Process type are basically divergent questions. They are not fact-based. Fact-based are content type. Then there is a concept question, which is again process type. So divergent is process, content based is process, and higher order thinking is process. This is again a content type question. So you have A, C and E as the right options here. The next is, which of the following will make a student a good listener? Now when do you want, when I want you to be a good listener? So if I want you to be a good listener, what should I do? So first of all, to make a student a good listener, there should be a predominant idea that a student should be able to concentrate. The student, he or she must have the feeling or the desire to understand and capture something. So desire to understand is again important, and a humility to know, a soft attitude, a polite attitude to learn, to gain knowledge. So those are three of the most essential characteristics. Deflecting attention would not make a student a good listener. Again, if there are emotional outbursts, the student cannot focus well, and if the student is trying to ignore one of the sides, that means the student is highly biased and has a biased perspective. He is not willing to accept the other side of the picture. The next question is, in which level of teaching the activities of structuring, guidance and supervision is predominant? So it's the memory level. Now the levels, the memory, understanding and reflective, we have covered in a separate lecture. Very important topic. Off and on you have questions from this section, and this is a very direct question that is there. So this is the memory level of teaching. The next is, the model of teaching is a description of. Now when I am teaching here and there is a atmosphere. Now what kind of atmosphere surrounds here is an atmosphere of learning, and that is determined by the behavior of teaching. Let's say I come here and start joking, and then we end the session with 1 hour of discussion and no fruitful productive session. You would definitely say there was no point watching this video, we should have watched some other channel itself. So the idea is there should be a learning atmosphere. It should be gainful, and that is governed by the teacher's behavior. So you would have 2 as the right option here. The next question is a very interesting question. Here we need to understand the dependent and the independent variable. So independent variables stand independent. Once you manipulate those, the dependent variables would have an impact. Now here, a university teacher conducts a research where lecture cum demonstration method is used to assess the effect on a student's level of participation in terms of socio-economic status. So what is the socio-economic status of the family would govern the level of participation. So participation becomes what? Participation becomes a dependent variable, and socio-economic status of the family becomes what? Socio-economic status of the family becomes a independent variable. So you would have the socio-economic effect, which would be a independent variable, and the study where this is conducted is what kind of a study? Is a lecture cum demonstration method. So that is the method used. So we have to understand the independent variable and the dependent variable and the impact of independent variable on dependent variable. So as the socio-economic status changes, the participation would change. So participation becomes dependent, socio-economic status becomes the independent variable here. The next is, in the following statements, identify which are related to teaching at the understanding level. So when I say understanding level, the teaching must be an activity to promote relationship between facts and information. Then again, a teacher expects the students to translate and interpret what has been explained in the class, and finally gives examples to bring home the main idea. So whenever a good teacher is there, it won't be just a teaching where the concept would be told, but there would be examples that would be brought about, there would be case studies, there would be some recent contemporary happenings that would be explained, and that is where you try to relate one concept to another, and this is the level of understanding. So the same question related to memory, understanding and reflective level. This is again a similar question to that, and a very important topic, as I would say, always asked for your NET examination. The next question is, for organizing effective teaching learning systems in the college, which of the following strategies would work well? So first of all, when a teacher is teaching, we must need to attune the teacher that the analysis should be done in respect to the student's readiness level. So whether the students are ready to comprehend the topic or not should be one of the major considerations that should be taken into account. Then various methods should be used so that the learning could be enhanced. So there should be diversification. And finally, involvement of the students for the various accomplishments and recognizing them for their work is important, and that is one of the effective way of teaching learning systems in college setup, which would be taken into account, okay, which would be considered as most appropriate. So these are some of the instructional strategies that would be definitely beneficial in teaching aptitude. Just a quick important note here, for teaching aptitude, try to put yourself in place of a teacher, not a student, while answering the questions on aptitude, the teaching aptitude, and that would make the answers definitely very much applicative as compared to the other scenario. We would be covering many other topics as well, and for more details and description, please follow the link below. Have a wonderful day ahead.